All right, so today we're going to be jumping into the metaverse again and looking at some projects that really go into the aspect of not only VR, but use cases around land, how the metaverse is eventually going to evolve, both from a monetary system, but also a use case. We'll do an analysis breakdown. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Metaverse Insider. Today, joining me is the CEO of CEEK VR. We've talked about CEEK before, but of course, Mary Spio, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here. Great
So, Mary,
studio.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, this was, this is interesting. A small story. We actually created this studio when the metaverse really kind of blew up on our channel for content. So now you're in the metaverse set. So welcome in.
Thank you. I was going to say, I feel like I'm inside the metaverse.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So let's first of all, I want to learn a little bit about CEEK and you, your background. I saw a little bit about in your dossier, a little bit about your experience with Microsoft and also just in technology in general. Can you kind of give us a rundown there?
Sure. So my background, I'm a space engineer. I've always, worked launching satellites into space, creating content, that use satellite for delivery. But then I've kind of evolved, creating just web technologies to also deliver content. So worked with the likes of Lucasfilms and the list goes on. Worked with the Microsoft team creating a token template for streaming content using blockchain. And today I'm the CEO of CEEK VR, where we stream content and enable
Yeah.
music artists to connect with fans in virtual worlds.
So for people who do not know CEEK as well, we've talked about CEEK before in our metaverse rankings. We've had them in our metaverse rankings over the last 6 to 8 months. We see a variety of different projects. In fact, I think it was in one of our big portfolio shows. We actually had invested in the token, did some really good things with it. But when you look at just explaining this to the average person, how do you explain what CEEK does and what its main mission is?
So basically, what Seek is, it's simply a metaverse that allows creators, primarily music artists, teams, to be able to have the simplest tools to create content, live events, NFTs, and whatever they choose to create, and engage with their users
Yeah.
in virtual worlds. So we've been giving them those tools for quite some time now. Before the metaverse craze, we were talking about
Uh-huh.
the metaverse. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We've been researching it for quite some time. Before Meta Friday, I think it was when Meta announced, Facebook
Mhm.
announced that they were deciding to go in this direction. That was really when I think a lot of people got drawn into what was happening within the metaverse. Obviously, artists, entertainers, we're seeing more and more from the creative landscape move into this medium, much like what we saw in the early stages of the internet. When you
Mhm.
look at that and the potential opportunity for what the metaverse can be, do you feel like
Mhm.
that's going to be pretty much the lead front run for how the metaverse will be utilized and also monetized here, at least in the short run, maybe the next 3 to 4 years?
Absolutely. With any platform, right, that's come, I mean, in the history of technology, without having the creators adopt and create for that platform or for that technology, it doesn't really scale. So
Yeah.
we have to be focused on mass adoption, which is where the metaverse is going to have the biggest utility. So, yeah, and that's why we've been empowering creators from the very beginning to be able to engage with their fans in the next iteration of the web.
So, okay, so I was just looking at just some of your news, and it was on your website. Obviously, you're partnering with World Music Awards. You've got the VR Playing for Challenge Foundation going on. You guys are really active in terms of promotion. I've seen your interviews in a lot of different places. So, kudos to what you guys are doing. How are the partnerships working for you when you go to an entertainer, an artist, a brand? What are the first things they kind of say about the metaverse? Do they completely understand it, or is it something you really kind of have to coach them in on it?
No, usually we have to coach them on it, and so, and I've always said, even when we would come and people were like, oh, I'm not a VR fan, or VR is complicated. And I said, but we're not a VR company. We're in the
Right.
music business using VR to enable fans to have a higher level of engagement, to have, and so we're looking at this technology as whatever you're doing, applying it to increase the level of immersion. And so that's how we've been able to get a lot of our partners. They see it, they love above all things the fact that we have these very visually appealing venues, and they
Right.
can relate to that, because a lot of them have been approached by some of the other competitors, but they couldn't quite relate to like the pixels and stuff like that. But they love the
Hmm.
fact that we have that realistic, that we're bringing virtual events, that we're bringing real events into the virtual world. So that's something that a lot of our partners prefer.
Okay, so when major acts and performers come into the metaverse, we're seeing you guys broadcast metaverse style concerts and different entertainment aspects of it. When you look at that, what has been the response so far in terms of like daily active users or total audience? What has been the impact, at least in the early stage?
It's been great. It's been great. And we saw this quantum leap, especially during COVID, right? During the
Hmm.
pandemic, where we had people like Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi canceled his concert, but we created
Yep.
content together for the CEEK platform. We had Lady Gaga coming on the CEEK platform, and Dwayne Wade, Celebrity Sports Academy. So we've seen that during that really helped transitioning people into actually living in these virtual spaces. And we've seen just a range of people using the platform. So, and of course, after the pandemic and people, it dropped off a little bit because we didn't have as many concerts going on. However, people are still coming back, and now they're using a lot of it are using it, for the social aspects, and then also they're looking at it from the perspective of listening to music inside of these amazing environments. Just
Right.
social listening is something that we find that is going to continue and going to bring people back on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, we track the metaverse content quite heavily with the number of projects, both on gaming, the Rails projects that we kind of look at that kind of drive the infrastructure side of things when it comes to metaverse. And we've started to see some up and down movement, in terms of overall sentiment, but there seems to be a coming out period. And it's one interesting thing is that a lot of times in just what you mentioned in terms of sentiment, it seems to have detached from traditional crypto, which is
Mhm.
intriguing to me because I think that has a lot of opportunity for companies like yourself who are growing and starting to move on because I think it does draw in not only investors, but just interested brands and partnerships and those kind of things. With that being the case, let's talk monetization because that's typically going to be the next, shoe that drops at some point. Revenue is going to be a factor here. How do you guys make money? What are some of the key, I guess, product centers that you would consider would be revenue generators for you?
For us, from the very beginning, it's been about content monetization. So artists, make their sustainable living from touring and from
Mhm.
merchandise. So that's also the same. The Seek platform is just a way for us to extend the reach of artists. So
Right.
for the big, mega artists, overconsumption, right, is where our utility starts. When they're completely sold out, people then want to be able to, consume their content. I talk about Adele having 100,000 tickets and 10 million people trying to buy those tickets. We want to sell tickets to that 9.9 million people, or the 99.9% of people that are not able to buy concerts. We're selling virtual tickets, and that's what people are buying. We're selling
Yeah.
virtual merchandise. And so now that virtual merchandise translates to avatar clothing that they're going to be able to buy, and these are all NFTs. So
Hmm.
when I use my avatar t shirt, maybe if I want to be able to sell it to somebody else, I could do that. Maybe I have a Paul Baron unique T-shirt, and you only release 10 of those inside of your
Right.
studio. So that's the level of monetization. We have an upcoming marketplace because there's so many aspects that people want to be able to build for and monetize. So the venues, even going into specific venues, we have the Jungleverse coming with ApeSwap. All these different venues, some of them are going to be where you have to pay to access.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the culture behind the entertainers and the crowds that follow them. I think a lot of people have understand there's fan clubs, there's all sorts of, just these cult-like, when you look at just Lady Gaga and just the amount of fans that she's been able to generate, in many cases, a lot of times when you look at the emerging stars, we're starting to see new stars that are developing their own fan base.
Mhm.
In fact, we're seeing it now, independent stars that are going out without labels in the music
Yes.
side of things, which I think the metaverse is going to be a perfect, magical place for all that to occur. With that being the case, NFT integration, a big part of this, obviously that'll tie to retail sales and other kind of digital sales of this. How far out into the monetization roadmap are you guys going? Are you going to get into CEEK stores? And I know you guys do some stuff with the Oculus in terms of hardware. Where do you see this going in the future?
I see the land sale as all these metaverse land sales that are happening. We're just building the marketplaces of the future. These are the
Right.
app stores of the future.
Yep.
So everybody that's building here, they're just building what the type of content, the type of experiences that they want to see. And then they're going to be able to monetize that content using the platform. So we're building the core tools that they need to
Hmm.
be able to have that speed to market, to be able to have that turnkey metaverse, and to be able to monetize those experiences. And that's basically what we're building. This is the app store of the future. These are all marketplaces that enable people to very quickly engage with their audiences. And so the seek being the utility token that's used inside of that world, there's a transaction fee that we charge. So whether it's an AMA that's taking place with an airdrop, or just all the experiences that are going on inside
Yeah.
of the Seek metaverse, is based on the Seek utility token.
Okay, so you answered kind of my next question is what can you do with the land being marketplaces, this being maybe the
Yes.
evolution of what will be the next generation of app stores. Obviously, we've
Mhm.
seen some recent news out on metaverse land sales. You had this massive spike, then a massive fall off. Now, a lot of
Mhm.
people look at it as just like the real estate market in essence, not really the same, but that there's these great opportunities to get in on land sales now at these dips, because this is much like what we're seeing even on Bitcoin and Ethereum and in the traditional token market. Same kind of scenario. You could barely touch a $20,000 Bitcoin, 6 months ago. So this is a very interesting time. With that being the case, on this, how do you first a couple of questions is we know what you're going to do with land. How would someone be able to earn money on land?
So in terms of, for us, it's for them to build all these different experiences. But, it's funny because I saw someone post recently they bought land for 200 and they've actually sold it for 100,000. That's not what we want people to do with it. But, good for that person. But basically how they're able to earn is if they want to sell their land, they could do that, but
Hmm.
building all these different experiences. So now, for example, we're partnered with the World Music Awards. The last one was, hosted by Miley Cyrus. The
Right.
World Music Awards is going to happen in one of these venues. So landowners can have venues that we then host all these different events. And the creators have a scheduling dashboard. Every event is going to happen inside of a venue. They get to decide which venue. So if it happens in your venue, there's a percentage of all those ticket sales that are then going to come back to you. The same with advertising, the same with just renting your land for somebody else to use. And
Yeah.
so it's a very circular economy. The fact that it's not just having the land and waiting for it to appreciate, but the fact that all these different things can happen. For us, the land sale is a scaling mechanism that allows us to bring the best of the best to build with us, which is also
Yeah.
why we've partnered with Draper University to bring developers to build for Seek.
Yeah, well, I was looking just at the line list of the partnerships you guys have done, both on the creator side, strategic side. Where, when you look at that, obviously that's a big feature set, for all of these different companies that are kind of rolling into it. But at the same time, they're going to be looking at, hey, what's next? Like Apple or any other big tech company, they're always iterating. All right, they're
Mhm.
coming out with the next version. I'm going to drop the iPhone 14. I'm getting ready to go, and it all starts in that process. I feel like Metaverse is also getting that kind of allure. So there's a little bit of demand. What's next for you guys in terms of tech side?
On the tech side, I mean, we're building these massive infrastructures and we're constantly, someone is like, wow, you guys are constantly building. Yes, we're constantly building. You have to constantly build. So even if you look at the way our graphics looked just maybe a year ago versus
Hmm.
how it looks now, there's been such a tremendous improvement in the lighting, in the shaders, and every aspect of it. And then, most importantly, just building on the security features, building on the infrastructure itself to accommodate not just millions of users, but ultimately billions of users, which is also part of why we have some of these partnerships that they have all these proven mechanisms to engage billions and billions of people. So why not, kind of team up with them so that we can offer the new world of what we're building and put it on top of some of their proven concepts and be able to scale.
Okay, a couple of last questions for you, and that is first is the VR side of things. Why go the route of making or going the direction of producing your own VR headset as opposed to what we see with things like Oculus, the evolution of what we're seeing with Facebook and Meta? What's the plan here? How do you and why did you do that?
So our VR headset has been around since 2014. And when we were first looking at VR, it was very complex. So we were working with the labels and they said, look, it takes forever to set up half of these VR headsets, and then the space that you need, come back with something that's simple, because music, the average length of music is 3.5 minutes.
Right.
Someone is not going to spend 20 minutes setting up their headset, having to move apartments just so they could accommodate the scale of it, and pay, $1,000 and buy a computer and all of that stuff. So this was a simple way for us to innovate in order to showcase the technology, and so people can try this. And then once they try this, they can, evolve to buy the Oculus. So we are a
Yeah.
gateway. It's like a toll bridge, bringing people into VR that have no VR experience.
I think that's a good strategy too, because I think you're right. One of the big holdbacks for I think the next real adoption curve is going to be the threshold of just being able to order and get an access to an Oculus, but then also being able to afford it. So a big
Yeah.
way. All right. So how are you able to do this within the Apple Store? Because we've seen a lot of pushback from Apple and other merchant digital stores in the essence of being able to roll out these kinds of products. How are you guys being able to do this?
So in terms of the App Store itself, people are buying, using the in-app mechanism. I think that the biggest challenge has been that a lot of applications are kind of bypassing the App Store because they don't want to pay that
Mhm.
30% or
Right.
15%,
Exactly.
whatever it is. But we know that it's a necessary evil to grow. And also, as a platform builder, we appreciate, the fact that they build this technology, they have to maintain it. So most of what's happening inside of the experience, they're using in-app purchases, and so
Yeah.
we're paying the app stores. And the app stores are benefiting from everything that we're doing. We're not trying to bypass the Apple stores.
Right. Right. So yeah, for them, it's just like any other in-app purchase. They're looking at it from just a new type of digital application that is now just happens to have kind of a blockchain background and some integration, obviously, within the metaverse itself.
Yeah.
All right, so this is very interesting stuff in the sense of how these kinds of projects are developing. When you look at this, your connection to partnerships and other metaverses down the road, are you starting to kind of spider out into some other potential big partnerships, something like a sandbox or those kinds of projects that are out there now?
Yeah, we're very open, and that's what I love about being in this space at this time. Everybody, I think, is carving out their own niche, right? So when you look at a sandbox, what they're doing is very different from what we're doing, and they do
Yeah.
what they do very well. And we do what we do very well. So we're always looking at collaboration, and interoperability is actually a hallmark of
Hmm.
everything Web 3.0. So I want to be able to buy something in Sandbox and bring it and have utility in Seek, and vice versa. I want to
Right.
be able to, take something from Decentraland or have an experience in Decentraland and have its equivalent. And we're seeing that even like with Oculus Quest. When you look
Yeah.
at our avatars inside of Seek, they're going to look very different when those same avatars are on the Oculus Quest. But we want to be able to make sure that if you've paid for an avatar clothing inside of Seek, that you can still access it when you go to all these different
Hmm.
places.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the big challenges for sure is the interoperability, because we've
Mhm.
already seen this in gaming and the challenge that many of the gaming companies are starting to deal with. I think the metaverses obviously will be naturally the next evolution of how those digital assets, because that is interesting enough. I've got two young children, and that is one of the big things they ask me about more so than not is digital assets. They want to buy,
Mhm.
digital assets within these
Yes.
games, and they've already started to ask that question of, can I use that in something else? So it's
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
interesting. My 5-year-old Animal Crossing whiz, she's trying to put tents in other applications. They don't work that way
Yes.
yet,
Right.
but it's
Right.
coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
So
it's the
a
same with
big one.
Roblox. I spend so much money on Roblox, and the fact that
Exactly.
these very expensive T-shirts and all the stuff that my son bought, he can't use it
Yeah.
anywhere else. So yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch for sure. I think there's a lot of innovation coming. You guys are definitely doing a great job on leading the way in the metaverse side of things. So great to have you on the show today, Mary. Thanks so much for stopping
thank
in.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Absolutely. All right, so you guys are tuned in over on Metaverse Insider, the podcast side of things. Maybe you're over there on iTunes or even Spotify. The best thing to do is jump over here to the YouTube channel. This is where you're going to catch all these great insights, a lot of these CEO interviews, and it's really where we break down a lot of the Metaverse tokens and all sorts of analysis right here on this show. Make sure just search Paul Barron Network. Of course, if you want to reach me, it is out there on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.